one of the issues with DEI or DEIB, a lot of stuff just really got pushed too far.
Trump's immediate efforts to dismantle DEI, do you think that this shift will last in the long term?
Yeah, it's going to go away forever, some stuff, but other stuff will come back. Most of it won't go away. We're a nation that values diversity because we are a diverse nation, and so it's just natural. Well, one of the issues with DEI or DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, is that a lot of stuff just really got pushed too far. Like, demanding that people see the world a certain way, demanding that they understand diversity in a certain way. And this is where the left is kind of the people who really sort of kind of pushed this idea. They really got control of the national narrative and they just held it really tight. And if you didn't hold that narrative, then you were excluded. Like at a place like my university, there's like a way of seeing this and you better be on board with it or not. And so I think this is a place where a lot of people came along and they weren't on board with being told how to think. Don't tell me I have to think in a certain way. Some of it is posturing because first off, it's not as problematic as we imagine. My students they don't run into any, speaking for my students, 99.9% of our lives where people are just living life. So it's not impacting every part of the nation in a way. And so in that sense, it's posturing.
But that idea must have been popular enough for the President of the United States to push it forward.
It's been very unsettling to see the degree to which, there's this movement that you have to think this way about diversity. And if you don't think this way, then you're an outcast. Diversity is good. People who are not white are oppressed. One thing after another. This is a certain narrative. And that's problematic because no narrative is true in every instance. And so I felt it. People would say like, oh, you can't talk about these issues in the way that you do. And I think, wait, what do you mean? Creating a space for free thinking. So this isn't about free thinking. You need to follow a certain script or a certain narrative. And I say, I'm not going to follow that. So I've been questioning DEI forever.
Now, if Trump's immediate efforts to dismantle certain DEI initiatives actually succeed, do you think that this shift will last in the long term?
Yeah, it's going to go away forever, some stuff. But other stuff will come back. Most of it won't go away because, look, we're a nation that values diversity because we are a diverse nation. And so it's just natural that Americans, we go to Little Korea in LA and people say, oh, they want Little Korea in LA. They don't want Koreans to all spread out all over California. They want Little Korea because I want to travel to Little Korea and I want to go shopping. I want to eat Korean food. I want to feel like I'm part of Korea here. Americans like that. That's a really cool thing. We're a different kind of country in that way. We're a big, massive country, and so you got all these little pieces of the rest of the world there. That's never going to go away because people value it. But there are certain parts of it that will go away forever. Yeah.
Which ones will go away?
Well, the stuff about where every organization, every company, every whatever it is, has people in place or an office in place whose job it is to think about diversity in some creative, interesting way. Most of them don't do anything because you can't think about. We're already diverse, and the kinds of things that you imagine doing really are not that important. Yeah, it's crazy. But there are other things that have great value. Some of these offices, do really important things and valuable things.
Those offices, have they succeeded in?
Yeah, sometimes they've succeeded, and other places they've failed. Because you can't make something happen that people don't want to have happen.
Those initiatives, have they really empowered social minorities?
Yeah, look at the culture in the United States, for example. Look at the degree to which people who are not white are in all sorts of positions. Look at the entertainment industry, right? All the various cultural industries. It's very complicated. It's like a little United Nations in lots of ways, and other places are still mostly white, and we haven't really fully penetrated. But other places have. We've succeeded, and we probably have further to go in some areas. Like, for example, we've really come so far in terms of like the relationships between men and women. And, but yet women still experience so much stuff that's much more subtle, and it's harder to get to, and it's harder to figure out how to stop it. And the only way to figure out how to stop it, the only way to stop it is to put men in groups and just beat them down till they, who knows what, I don't know, right? But so much of what's still going on is kind of subconscious. And so it's like, you can't do that. There's a certain level at which things, kind of gone about as far as you're gonna go. This is complicated, right? What I just said there is incredibly complicated. But the trans issues in the US, this is an example. Like, you start to say, well, okay, so people transition, right? It's male, female, and then there's a lot in between. So people who are transsexual or just trans, let's say, right? What do you do there? How do you negotiate that? How do you balance it? How do you formulate policy around that? Men, women, and everything in between, everybody in between. What happened was some people who were really pushing trans rights started to walk into that. It's the slippery slope. They started coming down the slope, and then they ultimately had to make a proclamation. It's like, well, I guess if Sam Richards considers himself a woman, then I guess he's a woman. It's like, that's the only logical place. And then you had enough people around to say like, oh yeah, all right, I guess, given all the other things, right? And some of these things, it's like, yeah, okay, all right, wait, what? How did we get here? And then people sort of paid attention to it and say, oh, this is crazy. Wait, seriously? This is crazy. And so that's how we got to that place, for example. Yeah.
Now, those who are against those initiatives would say that it harms meritocracy. What is your opinion?
Well, it can be harmful to meritocracy, but mostly any DEI, any kinds of programs that are well done are gonna also include meritocracy. You don't wanna, I was talking to a friend of mine who's colonel in the US military, and he said, look, man, if I'm on the battlefield, and he's been on the battlefield many times, the person next to me, if it's a woman, if it's a black person, a brown person, or a Korean American, I don't care who it is, I want to know that they're talented and they're able to support me. That's the most important thing. Well, the military, the US military, is just filled with DEI. But it's still also filled with meritocracy, because there are people who are saying, just like he said, I'm really supportive of women being next to me, or people who don't look like me or whatever, that's fine, but I just need to know that they deserve to be there, and they do, so they built a whole world around that. And so, but that's not always the case, You have the impression that it's not on merit, that the best person for the job didn't get the job. That's the impression. And sometimes that's true.
Then has that actually empowered social minorities, or has it actually harmed them?
It's both. It empowers people because it gives people opportunities, gives them a reason to step up, but it also harms because sometimes people are in positions that they're not really ready for, or people would say like, hey, wait, how do I know that you're this Korean guy here working here? How do I know that you didn't get the job because you're Korean? Can I trust that you're really talented? So everybody you see who's Korean or black or Mexican or Latino or something, it's like always in the back of my mind is maybe this idea, wait, are they really good? Are they really talented? Or did they just did a policy get them in here? Well, that's not good for you.
And yet it's still better for society as a whole?
Well, it's good if it kind of moves us a little bit. It opens some things up for us. So all this DEI stuff, it did open up a lot of doorways, and it brought people together in lots of different ways. But now we have to start to say, okay, hang on a second, let's just loosen things up a little bit. So it's both. Maybe I've never worked with a Korean, and now and I had the idea that, hey, Koreans aren't, I don't know about that, but I work with you, and suddenly I go, oh, wait, okay, all right, this is good. And then later I say, oh yeah, Koreans, yeah, I work with this guy, he's good. So then my next opportunity is a similar thing.
Corporations that are scaling back on many of these DEI initiatives, what do you think led to that shift for these corporations? Well,
because they were told they had to. They're not scaling back on DEI. They're scaling back on calling things DEI. We're a nation of, look, in California, white people are almost 40% of the population, like 45% of the population. You're gonna go to California, you're gonna engage with lots of people. The United States, we're at 58% of the United States is white. We're a very diverse land, so you're not gonna scale back on it. You're going to still be working it. You're just going to have to not call it that. I mean, you're still going to have to figure out, you got these differences, you got to figure out how to get people to work together very well.
The divisiveness that we have towards these initiatives, will it grow more extreme, or is there any way to mend those?
I think it's going to just kind of settle and people will stop fighting about a lot of stuff. Already, at my university, we're already just sort of not calling stuff DEI. We're stopping investing in certain things that probably it's like, yeah, maybe we didn't need to invest in that anyway. Same with corporations. Maybe you don't need that special program for women to help mentor women managers. Maybe you don't really need that. We'll work it out for women, for people who are gay and lesbian, for people who are racial minorities, new immigrants and so on. You know, they say a lot of these programs they're valuable for me to feel comfortable, to be wù I am. And yeah, to be here at Penn State and to feel this like a belonging. And I didn't need to be persuaded about that. I understand how that works, yeah.
You have placed a lot of focus on DEI in your teachings.
Only recently. Well, because the world to me is fascinating. There are two things that are fascinating. One, that we're such a diverse world. I'm really fascinated by differences. I'm also fascinated by all the similarities that we have. That like I come here and, you know, I go out down the hallway and everybody's lined up to go to lunch. You know, they're lined up just like they're lined up everywhere in the world. And I'm like, okay, we're not, there's so many ways in which we're not very different. Diversity is fascinating to me. Equity, how people understand the inequality and the differences and access to resources is very fascinating to me also. So it should be to anybody who's doing the kind of work that I'm doing.
Embedding the idea of diversity into our culture, how much of an importance do you think education has creating that culture?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And you're going to have it here in Korea. I mean, you do have it as more and more people come to Korea from outside. The worst thing you can do is bring people in who are not Korean and then make them live in these small little enclaves. You want to integrate them into Korea. Well, what you need to do is you need to then educate Korean people to say, hey, here are these foreigners who are coming in. You know, they're Chinese, they're from Uzbekistan, they're from, you know, wherever they're from. Get to know them, welcome them into your homes, show them what it is to be Korean. If Koreans are not told that, they're just gonna hold these people out here. It's like, no, you're not Korean, you're not like us. It's like, well, then they'll never have an opportunity to be Korean. It's like, you don't want to live in separated worlds. So that's why this is really valuable at every level, and people need to be educated about it.
Your ability to be able to understand and try to understand all the different ideas in the world.
Yeah.
Do you think that is teachable to people, or is it just you?
I think it's teachable, but it also takes a lifetime of practice. It takes a lot, but some of it's teachable. It's like you gotta be able to see the world from so many different perspectives. And when you do, it's really sweet. It's really fun. It's much better to be me, really open, and I can be very critical, but it's much better to be like that than it is to be closed down.